Welcome to those of you watching on YouTube. This is Blowing Smoke with Twisted Rico. I'm your host, Steve Riccardo. If you want to hear this entire show with intros, outros, and music, please go to Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, etc. Please welcome to the show, Carissa Johnson.
Hello.
I heard you
Happy to
say
be
somewhere
here.
that your name gets spelt wrong a lot. I have had that
It
problem
does. It's
my whole
so
life.
funny. Coffee cups, like even just every people say my name wrong all the time. It's kind of funny though. I kind of embrace it now. When I was younger, I was like, it's Carissa. But now I'm like, no, it's I want to see the different interpretations of it. But I'm sure yours gets spelled wrong too, right? You got the
Yeah,
two
yeah.
E's,
First and last name.
first and
Uh,
last. That's the
how
good
do
thing
they
about my
get
last name. Everyone gets my last name right. Don't usually have to
How do they get Carissa wrong? It seems like an easy
usually,
enough.
there's like a lot of K's involved or like double R's, one S. Sometimes I'll say it wrong and people think I say Krista or Kristen or Chris or like there's all these different, I guess they're not expecting Carissa, like those letters together, because I think it's kind of a more uncommon name. But I've only met like one or two other Carissas in my life who've spelt it this way. And then the ones that I've met a couple that have spelt it with like a K. Um, or like Clarissa, but it's rare. It's definitely rare.
You know, you're so young and you've been doing this for so long, and I want to
Mhm.
talk about that with you. But at first, I was wondering, you grew up in Arlington, right?
Andover, so
Oh,
close to Arlington, but the
oh,
same age.
Andover. Oh,
Andover, yeah.
oh, okay. So you weren't as close to Boston as I actually thought you were. What was it like
Yeah.
growing up there?
It was okay. It's a good town. It's more of a sports town and it's a good school town, but like there was no music growing up. And I got all the music influence from my family, my dad especially. He used to play in Boston a lot in bands, and he got me going with a lot of like his favorite Boston groups and like just good rock and roll growing up, but I had no other outside influence because I was just in this town that focused on sports and like there wasn't anything else to do. So
Did your dad play any recording bands?
he did. There was a band called The Bones, and they were around in like the late 80s, early 90s, and they play like The Rat and The Channel and they didn't play too much, but they played a few of the really cool spots that I never got to see. And he always talked about it. And I, when I was younger, like real little, I used to see them play at like the Haverhill TV station. Like the bassist ran HC Media, what it is now. It used to be just like Haverhill local TV, and they'd perform there, and I'd run the TVs and like I was filming them. And I remember that being a big influence because they were playing, they would do shows, kind of like more intimate shows for friends when I was born, like when my brother and I were born, my dad wound up kind of like going into other things and just focusing on being home with us, and the band would just kind of play like once a year for a special event. But growing up, I always thought that was cool. I'm like, what's the Boston music scene like? Like I want to get in there. I want to see what that's all about. But Andover felt so far away when I was younger, because I couldn't drive. And once I got my license, I drove in every day. Like I was just like driving into the city, going to all the venues, going to all the shows, and that was life changing.
Nice. So that would be like Andover's like 20 minutes outside of Boston, maybe half hour.
Yeah, I think when there's no traffic, it's about 25, 30 minutes.
That's not too
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned your dad. I imagine he must have played a lot of music. Is that how you found a lot of your music when you were younger? I mean, I was going to ask you some of your
Mhm.
early things that you remember hearing when you were young.
I went through a huge Beatles phase when I was younger. I wanted all their CDs. And I think just because they're so colorful and at the time something clicked and I was like, this is really good. I need more of this.
Who was your favorite
Um,
Beatle?
John has always been my
Me
favorite.
too.
In high school, I went through another phase where I was just like all about peace and anti-war and all of this. And John really like, he's the guy for that. But I love Paul. I love just the pop sensibility that he has and like just I mean, and then after I picked up bass, he was someone that I always went to look for inspiration. Like, how's he doing it and how's he playing those crazy lines while also singing, which is something I still can't wrap my head around. But yeah, I was into the Ramones, and there was also a time like my dad would play a lot of really good music, but I wanted to rebel against it. And I was like, he was playing the Ramones and all these bands that I wound up falling in love with later. But at the time I was like, what is this? I want to hear Avril Lavigne or like the A-Teens or like
hmm
just, the music I was into at the time. But he introduced me to a lot and still does. He's taken me to a lot of concerts and got me into like Social Distortion, and he's a big Led Zeppelin guy. Just like hard rock stuff. So there's that influence. My mom too, she's super into a lot of hard rock. So it was cool growing up with parents who are into music and encouraging the creative side of me. That's really helped.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now you mentioned bass,
Um,
so you didn't start on the guitar, you started on the bass?
I did start on guitar, but I picked up bass just because there was a band in town that was like the only band in my high school who was like a band, and they needed a bassist at one point, and I was just asking about the talent show because I was going to do a solo acoustic thing, and I was like terrified, and they were like, I asked the singer of the band, I'm like, hey, do you know when the talent show is? And then he was like, oh, by the way, we need a bassist if you want to join. And then I was like, oh, I don't really play, but that would help me get on stage and I'd be kind of like a side member so I could kind of like get those,
Mhm.
get the courage to get on stage. I think that would be great. And then I wound up being in that band for 5 years, and we played around, started playing Boston like 20, must have been like 2014, 2013, 20-ish, around there. We did like all Asia and Middle East, and
Really?
then
What band was
yeah,
that?
it was a band called Left Hand Blue. And
So
it's funny because it just kind of stopped, and then we both did our solo thing. But we put out like 5 albums.
you did?
We did, yeah. And I don't even know how many people know about that.
I thought I knew a lot about you, but I had no idea that I knew you were in other bands, but I didn't know you had 5 records out with another band. That's wild. I'll
Yeah,
have to
there's a singer, is it this my friend Matt Minigal. He went off and did a solo thing, and he does a lot of stuff with like Mary Lou Lord and Annabelle Lord Patey, and he doesn't do too much music anymore, but we started together and just did so much for like it was like 5 to 7 years, and that was really like my intro into playing music and wanting to be in a band and like doing it.
That's
So
fantastic. So were you
yeah.
writing at a young age? Did you start writing at that time?
I think I was in middle school when I started writing songs. I joined that band around high school. But yeah, it was my therapy. Like I would just go home and just write poems. And then I was like, I wonder if these could be songs someday. And I didn't really know how to put them to music, but at the time I was just learning every Joan Jett song I could and learning how song structures work. And then I just started putting my songs, like the poems I was writing, to melodies. And then I was like, oh, I guess this works, and this is how it happens. And then I just started writing, making them into songs. And um, the producer that I worked with Left Hand Blue, wound up being my producer for my first 2 albums, mostly actually my first 3 albums. And that really helped too, just having his help and his guidance. And then knowing the process and just being able to be like, all right, now I'm gonna like try to put together a band. And yeah, I mean, I went through a few different bands of like being a bassist, and then before I got the courage to do my own thing, it took me a minute to feel like I was able to do that, I
You were
think.
still pretty young though when you started doing your own thing.
Yeah.
19 maybe? 18?
Yeah, I was 18. Yeah, when my solo thing started, and I put out a couple acoustic albums before For Now came out, and those two have also been kind of swept under the rug. They're very anxious albums, but they're like the start of it all. And I just went into the studio and just recorded like 6 in a day, and then I did another 6. And then I started dabbling with the full band stuff, and I did a couple like I played drums on a couple, and then I started doing bass on a couple. And then because I played bass so much in Left Hand Blue and got comfortable with it, I was like, I don't see myself fronting a band with electric guitar. Like I don't have the technical skill needed for solos or like the actual technology of like guitar pedals and like sounds and all that. Where like I just really love plugging in and just playing and supporting the song because I'm more focused on the lyrics and like what the song means. So as long as I can sing it or like just get the words out, I don't really care what instrument I'm playing.
I
And the
love
bass,
that. I
I
love
just fell
that.
in love with the bass. Yeah.
I love that because I'm one of those people, I have to read the lyrics when I listen to
Mhm.
music, and I love that Bandcamp puts all the lyrics. I was reading some of your lyrics this morning,
Oh
as a matter of
yeah.
fact. Um,
Oh cool.
you have an incredible body of work, and it's been almost 10 years since you started with your own stuff. Now that I know about this, it's been longer than 10 years. When you look
Yeah.
back at where you came from and where you are now, how does that all make you feel at this point? Because you're still really young.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because this past February, I just turned 30. So I felt like it was kind of a reflective age to kind of like be like, wow, what was happening last decade? Like when I was 20, or like just thinking about 10 years ago, I'm just like everything was so different. Like I was still like just leaving Left Hand Blue at that point. And to think of all the things that I did over the course of the past 10 years, or all the people that I met and the places I went, I definitely took a moment to just be like, wow, like let's like step out of this right now and just like look back at that, because there are so many moments when I'm like, I'm not doing enough. I'm not where I want to be. Like it still gets to me sometimes, and it's like, how? Like I've done so many things that I wanted to do. Like I should like honor that and like think about that. And so I just took a moment to be like, yeah, a lot has happened. And all the goals that I have now where I think like they might be unreachable, I'm like, well, I thought that when I was 20, and then I wound up playing Paradise or opening for Damone, or like these things that I thought were impossible wound up becoming reality. So I'm like, what if like in 5 years I can play Saturday Night Live, or like I can get on Fallon, or like these certain things that just feel like they're like way out there, like way out there. Like that's how it felt when I was younger, like playing Sinclair, or like getting into some of these bigger venues I was able to in Boston. So that's been kind of nice to just reflect on.
You,
I'm
you
pretty
came,
proud of it.
yeah, you came out of the box pretty hard. I wasn't living here. I was living in a different city at the time, but I remember because I was long associated with the Boston music scene, so I knew a lot of people. In fact, I
Mhm.
remember when you won the Rumble, LEV from the Charms, who I used to manage their band,
Oh
called
yeah.
me and said, I just was a judge in the Rumble, and this girl, Carissa, you got to check her out.
Oh,
So I've been hearing about you for a while. I know that was
oh
a
wow,
few
that's cool.
few years after you were in the game.
Uh,
Before I ask you about your catalog, I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you anyways. I was going to ask you about your songwriting process. Some people say they write out of emotion, and some people write out of force. I was going to
mm.
ask you which way you write. I think I
Oh,
know
wow.
the answer to the question, but I'm going to let you answer it.
It's funny to hear that some people write out of force, because that doesn't sound great to me.
No.
Like, I'm like, that sounds painful. It's definitely not out of force, and I'm realizing that now because I just haven't been writing as much lately. I think I definitely write out of emotion, and like it's a therapy for me. Like whatever I'm going through, like it's my way of sorting out my thoughts. And then I think also it's subconscious, but just wanting to connect with someone else who might be going through the same thing in order to help myself and to help them. And so that's the beauty of live music, when I realize it connects and I'm like, oh my God, they get it. And then I feel better because I wrote this like alone crying in my bedroom. And then it's like this thing that then makes that experience worth it. So it's my way of turning around things that I don't know how to make better. Because if I can turn it into a song, then I'm like, oh, well, the experience was worth it because look at this and look at what this is
Yeah.
doing. Um, but there have been moments too where like in 2020 when I wasn't playing, I didn't really know what to do with myself a lot. And I wasn't really feeling inspired to write, but I was just like home staring at a wall. And I was like, what if I just did a song a day? Like, what if I just wrote a song a day, and it could be trash, but or it could be stream of consciousness, just anything that means nothing. Just like to get ink on paper would feel good. And I'm doing that again too, to just kind of like get it flowing again. Cause I think I've just been in such a transition now, like moving to New York, being here, paying rent. It's like a lot of new challenges, and I don't have the same amount of time to sit down and write, or to like even be in my emotions, which is another form of therapy. But I feel like when I have the time and I'm able to just sit at my desk and like sit with my guitar, a lot of stuff just spills out, and it's always words first. And then I end up putting that to a melody. But yeah, it's more of like a means to an end. It's like working through something, sifting through it, trying to make myself feel better. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Like if I cried when I write it, I know it's going to be a good one. And that's
True.
usually my like telling sign of like, should I keep it or not? Because sometimes if I'm just writing just to write, I'm like, what's the point? Like there's nothing really to hold on to here. But it still does help to kind of just get like, anything that's in there out.
A song a day is really ambitious, but I can
It's
tell
too
by
ambitious.
your catalog that you've done a lot of writing. Plus, you mentioned the poetry thing, and that's a great
Mm.
way to get the ball rolling. So, do you feel like if you go through a real hard situation in life, like a breakup or some like moving, like you mentioned, something
Mm.
like that, you immediately want to start writing?
Yeah, I think depending on the situation, it's funny too, because like throughout breakups, I think there's always like a good 3 to 4 weeks of just processing time and kind of just like moving through the feelings of it, where like writing about it would make it even harder. And I almost feel
Yeah.
like I have to be past something in order to dig into all the feelings of it, because I feel like I can get really creative with that lonely feeling and I can pull from it for days. But I have to be somewhat apart from it because I think if I'm really in those feelings, the last thing I want to do is like just keep on like exacerbating it. And sometimes writing can feel like that unless I'm really like working my way out of it. But yeah, I don't know, like the past couple singles I wrote, Congratulations and I Surrender, were kind of like experimental because in the past, like Blue Hour was a really sad album to me. And I was kind of like wallowing in those songs where like it was like, why does this keep happening? This keeps happening. And then I realized that it started manifesting again. And I was like, oh my God, like even the metaphors that hadn't happened came true in real life. And I'm like, it's because I'm chanting these things out. Like, what if I started singing about what I wanted to happen or like how I wanted to feel,
Did you
rather
go to
than
school at all? I mean, did you go to
um,
college at all, or did you read a lot? Because you seem very intelligent
oh,
about
thanks.
how you approach it.
I think, yeah, I think it's a lot of it's like experiential. I went to UMass Lowell for 2 years and I studied graphic design, but I left to pursue music. And then I just hit the road and toured for like 2 or 3 years straight. And then I wound up finishing school online, so I still continued my degree. But I have yet to like really finish it and get a bachelor's, but I just left it off at like associates. And I was like, I just want this to like add up to something. I don't want to just like leave school and like pay all that money for nothing.
Right. Did
But
you take
I
like
read a
writing
lot.
courses? Writing courses
A
or
couple. I took a couple writing courses in high school. There's creative writing. Lots of art classes, visual art, stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of the writing just kind of I've done so much of it on my own. I think just like journaling and then also just processing middle school and high school and college and I don't know. I think I was like getting myself into a lot of cycles of like almost like self-induced loneliness where I was just always
Hmm.
seeing myself as like on the outskirts of things. And so then I would always pull from that feeling. And that's something that I was like working my way out of with the last two songs where I'm like, what if I was like not just like seeking this feeling or like self-sabotaging so that I can write a bunch of songs about this feeling because it doesn't feel good. But I wound up connecting a lot through that because that's like a common thing. Like a lot of people feel that loneliness or like just like that aching for connection. And I think I've just spent a lot of time alone or like a lot of time doing something that like I can't really relate to many people on or like touring all the time or like traveling all the time and like just being away or like running away. Like I think a lot of it was just me like running away. So I had a lot of time to think.
I love a
And
good sad song myself,
yeah.
you know, breakup
Oh,
songs, sad
totally.
songs are the best.
Yeah, we need
Um,
sad songs.
you know, looking through your catalog, are there any records that you were like more proud of than the others? I'm just going to go through some of these
Yeah.
with you that I'm looking at and maybe discuss the videos too, because you've had
Oh
quite a
yeah.
prolific career here.
Yeah.
For now was pretty much the first thing that you did, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that was the first solo album.
Now it's tomorrow in Melbourne. Did that
Oh
only
yeah.
come out as a 7 inch?
Yes. Yep, that was a special release. I did like a limited, very limited run of colored vinyl, and that was the A side, and then there was a B side, Bound to Be.
Of course, that's the single I want to find because I love limited edition
Mm.
things like that.
Oh yeah, I'll send you one. They're
Oh,
all different colors too. Yeah.
I
Oh,
have
I'll get
such a
you one.
great way of asking for stuff without people knowing it. Um, and you know, you were really busy that during that time. Then you put Only Roses out in 2016, and then it
Yeah.
was, you know, after that, the Rumble happened the next year. Did you feel like an immediate impact? I'm going to sneak a few questions in between the
Hmm.
catalog here. Did you feel
Yeah.
an immediate impact from winning the Rumble? I mean, I wasn't around when it, you know, I used to go to the BCN Rock and Roll Rumble, so I don't
Hmm.
know what has
Yeah.
happened since. But
Yeah.
did that help you a lot?
It did. It really did. I think in just like helping people like hear about me and like just like more awareness to what I was doing. I think that like just really got the ball rolling. Because I had really just kind of broke into the Boston scene like as a solo artist in 2016. And that like I started meeting people and like going to the Rumbles, and then I was like, maybe I could play one year. And like I kind of swore off competitions too. Like I was like, I'm not doing any battles of the bands. I had done multiple of them and lost terribly. And I was like, I just don't feel like there's like, I don't know if it was because I was losing that I was just like, they're all wrong or something, but I was just like, this is just bad because like I don't want to compete. I just want to play. And I would turn it into a silly thing. Like my band kind of started off as like a comedy rock band, and then there was a moment when I was like, okay, like I want to be like punk rock. Like I need this to be more serious. Like I know there's good songs here. And I feel like the Rumble really helped showcase that in a way that I was like, wow, this is like really cool because it's more of a showcase. It's not a competition. It's the whole Boston music scene gathering together, and it's about community. And that's what I love about it, where I was like, I didn't even want to win. I was like hoping not to win. And I was like, but again, like of course, who doesn't want those prizes? Like who doesn't want free studio time or like,
Mm.
any sort of free coverage or like just to be in there, to be the first female since Amanda Palmer in like 2004.
Oh, I didn't
Like
know that. Wow.
that was also really pushing me because I was like, a woman hasn't won this in like 13 years. Like it has to happen.
Really? I didn't even realize that, and I followed the Rumble for years, but now that you
Yeah.
mention it,
Yeah,
wow,
there
now
weren't many. I think over the course of like since the 70s, there's only been a handful of female fronted groups that have won. And that was pushing me a little bit, mostly like for the women in the room. And just because it was such a like women's year, I feel like in 2017, like there were so many new bands and like new women picking up instruments, and it was just exciting. Um, but yeah, there was an energy there. It was crazy. I have yet to feel the same energy at a show that I did at those Rumble shows, and it was
really?
really exciting. Yeah, it was just something was just really magical about it, and like I think it was just everybody coming together, and like it
Was
was
it
the last
TT's,
year.
TT the Bears?
This one was at Once Ballroom.
Once.
I think
Oh,
in the
yeah,
years
okay.
before that they were at TT's, but one TT's had closed by this point.
That's right.
So it moved to Once, and Once was also just that place where everybody hung out, and they had the
Yeah.
upstairs hangout area, and like it was just such a cool community, and it still is. I think like the Rumbles changed a lot. That was the last WZLX Rumble, and we didn't know that at the time. I think it was either yeah, I think it was either the yeah, because it changed over. There was a break in between, and then there was 1 year with the internet radio, and then COVID. And then after like 2 years, I think it's going to be back this year or was back last year or something. But it definitely helped. It's funny because like the Rumble's been around for so long, and it's meant something. It's meant the same thing ever since the 70s. Like it's just like a big
Yeah.
group of rock and roll bands like playing and having fun. And then there's like a lot of stakes too. Like there's a lot of good prizes.
And
And
cash.
cash, the cash was
Yeah.
helpful. But I was able to then work with Benny Grotto because his studio, Mad Oak in Boston, had a prize for like free song and free mixing, which then led to me doing all of Blue Hour with him.
That's funny. I
Um,
was going to talk to you about
yeah.
Benny, and you just thank you for
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, man, he's been such a big part of just like my growth as an artist, and he's helped me so much. He was my drummer at one point. Um, But yeah, no, he's been great. And it led to a lot of connections like that. Or like people being like, I heard of you through the Rumble. Here's this opportunity. Or like, and I'm like, this is just crazy. Like the amount of connections I made through that was pretty insane. And it still keeps happening. It's like the gift that keeps giving. So I'm
I
pretty
might be a little out of order here because I know that I remember following the whole time that you were doing a lot with Vanessa
yeah,
Silverman. You guys toured together a lot.
yeah.
Did that happen before or after COVID? Because COVID kind of like screwed everything up for everybody, and I
Yeah,
can't remember.
COVID was the halt to that. We toured in 20, it was basically right after the Rumble. I had met Vanessa. And then we just got on the road together instantly. And then it was just like 2 full years. We did 10 tours over the course of 2017 and 18. And then I was living out in LA for like a year, but while I was living out there, I was touring. So I don't really see that as like an actual place I lived because it was just kind of a base to go
You
back
lived in
to.
your van, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I moved back home in like 2019 and it wasn't short, like it wasn't long until COVID happened. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm not touring anymore. I don't even really know how to like after all of that happened, I kind of was like, how do I even go back to playing the same venues I did in Boston? Like so many of my favorite places closed. Great Scott's no longer there, like Thunder Road's no longer there. The mid-level venues where I was like the only it was like that was the place I was like it wasn't going to be entry level, it wasn't going to be the huge ones, but it was like all of these places just completely closed. And like a lot of the people were still there, a lot of people had moved, but I was like, I was really hoping I was going to move to LA actually, like right before COVID happened, because I was living there, moved home, and then I was like, I got to go clear my mind and figure out what the next steps are for me. I toured across the country on a tour for 100 Restless Thoughts, which was an album I put out in 2019, which is actually pulled from online, but it's on the Bandcamp. Um, but I drove across the country, got to LA on March 1st, 2020, and was going to be there for 2 months. So
Oh
I had
no.
to be for 2 months and I was going to look for an apartment, had to fly home, ship my car across the country. And then I was living at my parents' house for 2 years. And then that was when I was like, well, I got to get out, but I don't want to go to LA anymore. And I was like, well, New York's like the next bigger Boston. Like, what if I just went somewhere and like challenged myself a lot? And then that's kind of how I wound up here.
Wow, that was a lot. Huh?
Yeah.
Did you where did you live in LA? Because I lived there for a long time. I'm just
Really?
curious.
I moved to East Hollywood. I
Oh,
was like,
East the
yeah,
new
between Fountain and Santa Monica.
it's become the new hip section of town in the last 10 years or
Oh,
so
yeah.
for sure. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
glad you said all that because I was definitely out of order because I thought you were
Okay.
with Vanessa later than that. How did you two hook up? Because you guys worked together quite a bit.
I opened for her actually at O'Brien's in
Really?
20, I think it was like March. Yeah, March of 2017. I opened for her. And then it was just such a match. Like I was like, you're touring the country. How are you doing this? And she's like, I'm just booking myself. And I was like, oh my God. I was just booking my own tours. And I had just gotten back from my first tour that I did with, or second tour that I had done with my band, that I just like went out to the Northwest and was like, I'm just gonna go out for 2 weeks. And I admired that someone was doing it just nonstop. And I was like, basically, like, I was like, can I come with you? Like, I can do this. I can help you. Like, we can do this together. So then we just wound up working so well together and just being on the same page. And like, we're still business partners. Like, we still work together and book other artists.
Oh, that's
And she's
great.
in New York now too. And it's just crazy how it's all kind of come around because we just were like, together for 2 years straight and then apart, and then now we're back working like in a whole different way together, helping other artists. And that's been really cool because we did a lot of talks together, like DIY talks to like Apple, and then like Girls Rock and Sound Girls, and just groups of young people who want to know how to make a living as a DIY artist. And we made a blog together about it and like all of our
I
travels and
followed a lot of that. You guys are great together. I was wondering,
wow.
I didn't realize you guys were working together still. That's fantastic. Great match.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
totally. Yeah, she's a great person to work with, and she's so smart with this stuff, with touring and being a DIY artist. She's like the queen. I always called her the DIY queen.
yeah, she's really good. I'm gonna, I don't want to just skip over some of this stuff because I know you
Oh
did.
yeah.
I wanted to mention that I heard your cover of Metric, Emily
Oh, the
Haynes.
metric. Yeah.
I love Emily Haynes. She's like
Me
one of my
too. She's so
fantastic.
good.
You did a
Love-
Nana cover too. The Good
Yep.
EP came out in 2020, right?
Yes.
And then
Yep.
you mentioned the Restless, excuse me, 100 Restless Thoughts.
Yes.
Um, I should mention, I didn't even say your band's name, The Cure-Alls, because you've done a lot with
Yes.
them. Then in
Hmm.
2021, you did an album with them, Talk, Talk, Talk. That's when it
Hmm.
came out, anyways. I don't know if you recorded it in 2021.
Oh, that one actually, Talk 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 came out in 2019, I think, or 2018.
The Bandcamp
Oh,
date
on
got me
Bandcamp, it was
confused.
added later. Oh, I gotta
Yeah.
fix that. Whoops.
Like I said, you've put out so much music that I can't even keep track. But
I know.
I'm gonna get back to Blue Hour though, because I was
Yeah.
going to ask you because I love Benny Grotto. I think he's one of the best engineers around, and I think the
Uh,
music that comes out of Mad Oak, the drum sound, just everything about that place. Now, I was
mhm.
going to ask you how you met him, and you already told me that you met him
Mm,
because of the Rumble. So you
yeah.
won a prize to go record with him, and did you guys immediately connect and hit it off right away?
Yeah, I love his process. I love the way he works. It's just like boom. Like everything is just like do it, done, there we go. And I'm like, this is magic. Like I just love the quickness of it. And like he's just so down for all the ideas I have and he's super like tech savvy too. And like as far as synths go and keyboards and like the new elements that I was wanting to add in, like he's just so well versed in that stuff. And I always make a joke that he Berkeley's my music, but like he Berkeley's it up, and I'm
Did
like,
he
I
go to
can't
Berkeley?
Berkeley. He went to Berkeley, yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay, I'm not going to hold that against him.
I
But
think I'm pretty sure he yeah, because he went there.
that was a
I,
joke, by the way, for you Berkeley people. I have nothing
yeah.
against Berkeley. I know a lot of great
No.
musicians that have gone there. It was a
Oh,
joke.
totally. I have a lot of friends who went to Berkeley and like admire them for it. I'm not technical. Like when it comes to music, I'm like, this sounds good and this works, but it's all just like by sound. It's not by like this works because it's math. And Benny's very mathematical. And I was just like if I would send a demo to him and he's like, oh, it has to be this note, or like there's all these notes happening, but they don't technically work. And then I'm like, okay, thank God I have you because I don't want it to be all dissonant. But he was good at like taking the ideas I had and actually like implementing them. And then also just like wanting to grow from that rock and roll sound, like the gritty, punky sound that I had when I was working with Doug Batchelder at with Only Roses and For Now was something that was like necessary for those years when I was making those albums. But then I was like, now I want to kind of like gloss it up a little and see what I can do on like the poppy side, or like if I add synths, or like if I'm now listening to Dua Lipa and want to start like adding in some sort of pop elements. I don't feel comfortable going to Doug for that because he's not going to be into it. But Benny is as excited about that stuff as I am.
I love the
Um,
Blue Hour record. You know, that one really, the song Wasting Dreams. I mean,
oh
the minute
yeah.
I heard that, it jumped right off for me because I heard all the other
Oh,
instrumentation and I'm like, okay, she's going a little further now, you know,
that was
because
a
you,
stretch. Yeah, that was a stretch for me too, because I was like, I don't know how to do this.
well, you're really good with just the guitar playing solo, but now you adding all these other things to the music has really been
Mm.
helpful. There's I didn't type this up, but I wrote this down and scribbled on a piece of paper. The song You.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I wanted to ask you about some of your videos because I think they're
Mhm.
fantastic. I'm gonna segue there.
Cool.
That's a love song, You, right?
Yeah, it's a love song for my friends.
Where did you shoot that?
That was at the Belford Center of the Arts, um, in Braintree, or not far from Braintree. It's like that new, it's like they're renovating this huge, like hospital grounds that like, or it's just like this huge outdoor campus that they're starting to like implement musical elements in, and they're like just use the theater like for free, like if you need it.
Fantastic.
Like
I
how in the
love
world?
that. Love that room. I was like, where
That's
is that
beautiful.
room?
And there have been Paper Tigers did a music video there, and I think Still Gold did a music video there. And like I think because we all had done the festival that they did, and then we all checked it out, and we all were like, "Can we do a music video here?" And then we all put out music videos like months apart from each other in the same place. But that place was amazing.
And the other videos I've seen, like congratulations, is
Oh
wild.
yeah.
Your videos are like, are these directors that you're seeking out? Video
So
directors?
You was filmed by my brother because he does drone stuff. And that was super simple. That was only like a couple hours. And he did the handheld camera too. He's done a lot of my videos for Blue Hour as well. He did sound and running uphill.
Tourist was on that, right?
Oh yeah. So Tourist and Congratulations were the same group. So I there's a group in New York called Jampson Films, and they are
People.
incredible. Yeah, they're so good. And they came up with like these full out concepts for these songs that just completely took them into a whole other world. And that was my goal because those were like hard songs for me. And I was like, I just want to make them silly and fun. And like they're all of them are kind of based in the world of comedy. And I was like, this is just going to be a dream to work with them because they'll get it. And they got it. And it was just like It's so funny. Congratulations is probably my favorite one that I've ever
Is
done.
that the one with 228,000 views?
Oh, is it? I don't
Yeah,
know. I haven't checked.
that's
That's a
pretty
lot.
good. That's pretty good. And the cast of
Oh.
characters just cracked me up. I was
Oh
like,
yeah, the
wow,
chorus
this.
one was so fun. Because that one was one of the, because I was filming the music videos basically when things started opening up in 2021. And it was like my way of just like being like, I'm gonna go do everything that I want to now because I wasn't able to the past 2 years. And it was like, I got a credit card, I'm going to California, I'm going to the sand dunes, I'm gonna do these crazy videos. And then it was like, I'm gonna do a crazy video with a bunch of characters and like have New York enter like an apartment setting.
I
And
think you're
like,
perfect for New York, by the way. I mean, I love
oh.
LA. I lived in LA for 14 years. I'm going there for 3 weeks later this
Mm.
summer. And I lived in New York too, but you seem more New York to me than LA. Is that a good
I
assumption?
feel that. I was so obsessed with LA when I was younger because I really loved the palm trees and the warmth and just how different it felt from what I knew. But then something I'm such an East Coaster. Like I'm not meant to be in LA, I don't think.
Do you
New
live in
York was so
Brooklyn?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, you're perfect for Brooklyn because it's like East Hollywood, you know?
Yeah, totally. It's got that grit. I
Yeah,
love it.
everyone's making, there's a lot of TV shows that have come from there. The video people are creative. It's such a
Yeah.
really good environment for you. Your videos, fantastic. I
Oh,
mean,
thanks.
I love everything I watched. I wanted to ask you about Swivel because I've played some of your songs on my show before, and I play in
Mhm.
Swivel too. I thought Swivel. You mentioned Damone. Is it
Mhm.
all of the members of Damone that were in? I mean, who's in Swivel with you?
So Noel LeBlanc from
Mhm.
Damone is the singer. And then Ken Susi from Unearth and As I Lay Dying, he plays guitar. And then we've had a few different drummers. Pat Politano was our original drummer, and he used to play around Boston with other bands with Ken. And then now we have Ryan Manning, who he plays with everybody too. He's in a band called Blitz Kid, and he played with he's played with my band a lot. We've done a bunch of like shows together, but he's just this, he plays everything. So it's the four of us, but yeah, working with Noelle has been a dream come true because growing up, Damone was one of my favorite bands ever, and I always just wanted to meet her, never mind like be in a band with her. So
Yeah, you're like a skateboarder, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I kind of figured you like. Yeah, I didn't mention that before. Actually, there was another video I watched where you were skateboarding around an empty city. Was that during the pandemic?
Yeah, that was April 2020.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry, I go all over the place
Yeah, no,
sometimes.
I love it.
So Swivel, was that just like a one-off project, or do you plan on doing more with
Um,
them?
we've kind of started playing less. We started in 2016 and we were really going at it like in 2016, 2017. Um, but we all have other projects that are like the main project. So Ken's always on tour with As I Lay Dying, and then Ryan's on tour with Blitz Kid, and then Noelle does she did Damone for a few years in there when they were making their reunion happen. And then I've always been doing my own solo thing. But it's so fun when we get to come together because it's just fun for us. Like there's no real pressure of like this is all we've got or like this is what we're gonna do
You
like
guys
for the rest.
bring the rock hard too, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ken and Noel write most of it, and I love both of their music in general, so it's like such an honor for me to just play bass with them and be on stage with them. Like when I first joined, I had like a lot of imposter syndrome where I'm like, how am I here? Like how do I deserve this with
You're a
these
good
guys?
bass player too, though, by the way. So,
Thank you. I love that
um,
band. I think we'll do more, but it's just few and far between now.
I
But we're
didn't
still
want to.
together.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about them. Now, the last
Yeah.
thing you did was I Surrender, right?
Yeah.
So, that's, I think Benny played you and Benny, right?
It was just me and Benny, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
He
So how
sang on it too. His voice is kind of subtly in there too.
so moving forward, are you and Benny like in cahoots to do more together? Because you guys were, I know you live in New York and he's up here, but you have
Yeah.
family here, so you probably hear a lot.
I come back and forth a lot. I'm actually going to be coming back this weekend, and then the following weekend. So like I'm back almost once a month. I want to work with Benny. I think it's more of a financial thing now where I'm kind of like, how do I afford music in general?
How do you
after
afford living in Brooklyn?
now,
Jesus.
that's the thing. I was able to afford music because I didn't live in Brooklyn. But now I'm kind of trying to figure out a way that I can still record and live in Brooklyn. But I'm still kind of getting that all together. And we did record a lot. Actually, there's like 3 or 4 other songs that we did when we recorded I Surrender and Congratulations that are like 75% done. So my goal originally was to just make another album, but I think I'm gonna either do an EP with those or do some sort of like bedroom recording of just like a bunch of songs where I'm like, here are just my songs and I'm just gonna put them out there and like not be precious about it. Because Blue Hour was such a precious project where it was like, I mean, it was precious, but it was also like, I'm just letting go. Like, I'm just gonna like let go of control and see what Benny can add to this because collaboration is also something that's like new to me. Or like I have a hard time letting go of like the grip I have on my ideas. And so that really helped working with him where he was like, I had a song Polaroids that was a punk song and he turned it into like a ballad. But I was open to that because I'm like, you probably have better ideas than I do, and I just want to put something out and like make it the best it can possibly be. But now I'm kind of like changing it all up and I'm like, what if I spent $0 and what if I just put out like the rawest thing ever. And like I don't do full production music videos and I just do like phone videos or like it's kind of experimental to me. Like it sounds fun to just go completely 180 and just see what else can
Strip it all
happen.
down.
Strip it all down. And it's funny because you mentioned You, like that song was such an outlier on that album where like everything was so super produced synth pop. And then You was just this like acoustic, unedited song. And that stood out
It
to people. And a
worked.
lot of
It
people were like,
worked.
that's my favorite song. And I was like, I think it's because it's the little weirdo on the album and it's like really raw. And I'm like, people connect with the rawness these days, and like, I don't want to hide behind anything. So, like, I think I might do something that calls for less production next. But I love Benny so much, and we'll hire him for everything when I can. But I think we're gonna work together again in the future. I'm not sure yet. Like, there's no plans, there's no like dates booked, but he's my favorite, and I love Doug too, who I worked with Only Roses. I talked with him recently about working together again. I'm like, I would love to do like something more punky again. And like there's just all these different sides of me that I'm like, I could do the punky stuff, I could do the pop stuff, I could do just solo acoustic, or like who knows? I just want to like put stuff out there. So
It's weird
we'll see.
because one of the earliest things I ever learned when I started working with labels in my early 20s was people used to always say, you got to surround yourself with talent. You're doing
Mm,
that. You've got
mm,
Benny Grotto. I always say he's an engineer, but he seems to have these producer skills, and you're
yeah.
mentioning that right now, where he's
Mhm.
able to like look at a song and help you figure out what to do with
He
it.
has a lot of good ideas, a lot of good visions, and like he just has the best ear. Like he knows where to take the song where it's going to make the most sense, and he's really good with that. Like there's sometimes when I draw things out for too long and he knows when to cut it, or when I don't draw it out long enough where he's like, we need to add this little piece here, and then it's like the best part of the song. So it's really helpful. I couldn't do this all by myself. I'm scared to do anything alone because like every time I go to do like my bedroom album or like my like just self-recorded album, I'm like, I gotta take this to somebody else because like I can't put this.
Before I let you go, I have to ask you what you're listening to, if there's any music that's really hitting you these days, or do you go back and listen to older things? Do you listen on a
Um,
turntable? Do you stream? What's your whole deal with that?
I have been so I have records, but I don't have a working record player. But I have the records for in the hopes that I'm going to get one soon and listen on vinyl. Because I feel like that's the ultimate experience, but it's also it's hard because I'm a minimalist and I don't like having things. And I like that's why I sold my old record player when I was like getting rid of everything. And I didn't use it as much as I thought I would. But I like streaming because of the convenience. I feel like CDs are the optimal form of music because it's like a mini vinyl and it doesn't take up much space and you get the whole package.
You kind of grew up in the CD
I grew
generation
up in
too.
the
Yeah.
CD
Yeah.
generation, yeah, but they're totally, no one thinks that. So I feel like they're going out of style.
We all hate them now.
Yeah, I know. No
I
one
got
likes
I got
CDs.
10,000 of them, but I hate them.
Yeah, yeah, no, I got rid of all of mine too. But I don't know. I've been actually, I really like when random stuff comes onto my Spotify, or like I'm somewhere and I hear a song and I Shazam it. And right now I just have so many random songs that I've fallen in love with because I've heard them. And it's like there's this artist Kate LeBon who I really love. A lot of her stuff has just hit me where I'm like, this is just so good. Like she has this album, I'm gonna find it. Um, there's this song. Sometimes I just listen to one song for 3 months straight, and I think that's like problematic, but
I've done that. If I like a song, I'll listen to it 3 times in a row and read the lyrics and try and figure out what's going on. I can relate.
yeah, I've always been like that. And like I just get obsessed with like an album or an artist for like a span of time, and then I find something else and then it changes. So right now, Kate LeBon, her album Pompeii is one of my favorites. Um, I've been listening to, I'm trying to think of even like I feel like I embrace my quiet time in New York. So like in my free time, I don't feel like I listen to as much music as I did before, but it's still a lot of like the artists that I was listening to just for the past, however long that I just love and have kept up with. Um, but I'm gonna look at my Spotify to even think of who. I mean, the Lost International, they're great. I love them. Um, Patti Smith, I've been going through a pretty big Patti Smith phase, and I've been reading all her books and like finishing the ones that I started years ago.
Wave is one of my favorite albums. Todd Rundgren did that
Oh,
one. It's
she's
great.
so good. PJ Harvey, I've been listening to a
Oh,
lot of PJ Harvey. And yeah,
just
yeah,
got
yeah.
my tickets for PJ Harvey.
Really?
It's
Oh,
that new place in MGM. I haven't been there yet, but a friend of
that's
mine
gonna be
picked up a couple tickets for us. So I love
that's
PJ.
gonna be great. Oh, she's so good. I would love to see her live. But yeah, it's kind of like a big mixed bag right now. Amy Mann, she's one that I've just listened to forever and love everything that she does.
Hey, thanks a lot for talking to
Yeah.
me.
Oh, totally. Thank you.
I think you're great. You know, you've been at it and you work hard and you've got all these relationships with different musicians and producers and I think you're gonna do I think you're gonna do great. I have a I
Thank
think
you.
I know you
That
I
means a
know
lot.
228,000 views is only halfway to where you're going. You're going
Thank
quadruple
you so
that.
much. Every now and then I have my doubts, and it's good to have a little check-in like this and just be reassured. So thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.